Hello, my name is Thirsty for Chicken, and this is my first ever video based on my figure collecting. I've been wanting to do a video like this for quite some time, but I was trying to do something a little more special than what I'm going to give you guys right now. I was trying to work on a bigger budgeted video, if that makes more sense. But what we have here is my Godzilla collection, and that's what I'm going to go over in this video. This video is actually being made on a whim based on a contest that's being held right now on showing your figure collection. But I'm just going to focus on Godzilla because, in my opinion, most of the action figure community doesn't really focus on Godzilla too much, or Godzilla-related monsters, kaiju, that sort of thing. Everything seems more heavily focused on Marvel Legends, Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Ninja Turtles, that sort of thing. That's mostly what you see on review channels. So I'm going to go ahead and showcase what, in my opinion, is a lesser talked about franchise in this community as a whole. And we're going to go ahead and get started on my top shelf here. So starting on the right here, we're going to go ahead and take a look at my Bandai figures, which I started collecting from 2003 to 2004, around the time the Final Wars movie came out. Starting with Mother Legion from Gamera, Mechagodzilla 2 or Mechagodzilla 1975 from the second film. There's a Gigan from the Bandai Museum in Japan, another Mechagodzilla from the 2003 or 2002 film, a larger one in the back, a Bandai Universal Studios Japan exclusive Shin Godzilla, Smog Monster, and Gears from the 2004 film. We have Des Ghidorah from one of the Mothra trilogy films in the 90s. We have a Gigan X from Godzilla 2004. We have a Biollante, and in the back there we have Orga from the 1999 film. Then we have a Godzilla from 2002. Two different Mothra larvas here that were actually part of a play set of smaller Godzilla figures from the Godzilla against Mechagodzilla or Tokyo SOS film. I get those ones mixed up, unfortunately. I know I'm a big fan, I shouldn't. This one's from the second Godzilla film against Mechagodzilla, the 2003 one. You could tell by the battle damage on his chest area there, that glowing gold part I'm pointing to right now. And then in the back, there is also a Monster X figure. Now you may have noticed I skipped a shelf here. I'm going to save that one for later. It's very special, but this shelf is also very special to me. It consists of my favorite figures in my entire collection of kaiju merchandise and Godzilla-related stuff. So we're going to start here on the far end. This is a Trendmasters Mechagodzilla 2 figure from the 1992 film. And it's probably one of my favorite figures from Trendmasters. Its design really holds up, and even though it has those seam lines there, it's kind of hard to fudge up that design with all the angular shapes and the silver paint scheme. It looks as good as an X Plus in my opinion. And this here is an Albatross Godzilla, Shin Godzilla figure of his third form, and there's his second form down there, down below. The figures aren't really 100% accurate to the film in terms of color, but they're very realistic and almost look like museum pieces. And believe it or not, they're actually made out of glass. It's actually kind of crazy. And they're a little translucent. You might be able to tell there because of that. And they're very fragile. I have a larger one, but he is in a different place right now. And that there is Shin Godzilla in his fourth form, or his final form in the film, unless you consider the one from the ending of the film. And he is a Bandai Japan Banpresto exclusive that you had to get from like a prize lottery or like one of those like claw machines over there. It's a bit different than over here. Things are a little higher end. So I'm going to go ahead and get a closer look at some of these. You can see some of the detail on the eye there. And then here we have a Muto, which is an X Plus Muto from the Godzilla 2014 film. This is the male Muto, which is, a lot smaller than the female. Unfortunately, there's no figures of the female Muto as of yet. And, just going over some of these in closer detail, give you a better view. So these ones are from a company called Albatross. Not sure if I mentioned that or not. and they're actually pretty hard to find, and they were hard to get shipped over here securely. I was afraid they were going to break because of the materials. And then over here, as we move over, we have an X Plus Godzilla 1989. And in case you don't know, X Plus is sort of like the higher end collectible versions of Godzilla figures. They're much larger, made of, a sturdier vinyl. And that one was an exclusive. It actually lights up on the dorsal plates, but the batteries are dead right now. There's my ticket from the 2014 premiere. It was the IMAX premiere. Oh, I just knocked it down there. But this here is from an American company called Far East Monsters that existed for a very short amount of time. They wanted to release every Godzilla monster from the Destroy All Monsters film, but they only got out Godzilla and Ghidorah. Unfortunately, I do not have Ghidorah. He's really hard to come by nowadays. But these figures were pretty abundant in the early 2000s. As you just heard, he also roars and lights up. I'm going to go ahead and put my ticket back up there. And this here was actually also a Banpresto. I believe it was a model kit. I actually bought this from a buddy of mine at a convention. You can see some of the glue around the mouth area there. But it's of the 1964 Godzilla. And then over here we have an oddity in my collection. This here is a model kit of Destroya from the 1995 film. And oddly enough, I'm actually not sure what brand this is from. I got this on eBay for relatively cheap back in the day, and I put it together and painted it myself years ago. And it's got a lot of dust on it, unfortunately. I should probably clean it off. But, in my opinion, I didn't do too bad of a job. In fact, I honestly wish I kept up painting and doing model kits like this. It's been quite a few years since I've, took a crack at it. But as you can see there on the eyes, I actually try to do some really intricate detailing. If you can really look there. They're also sort of layered. They have like a plastic shell over top of them, which I think is pretty darn cool. And it has individually sculpted teeth there. And there's a little Destroyer from the Bandai series. And honestly, that's probably one of my favorite figures, especially since I don't know what it's from, but it stacks right up there with the X Plus. And then this here, we have a Godzilla 2019 from X Plus. And this is one of my newest additions to the collection. And oh boy, is it cool. Wait till you see this here. It comes with a little bonus feature that not a lot of Godzilla figures have. At least not the mainstream ones. So go ahead and take a look here. Ooh, there it goes. Lights up. And that's a really nice feature that it has. It comes with this little battery pack that plugs into the back of his foot. And you just flick it on and off. And it lights up his eyes, a little part of his mouth, the gills on his neck even. And look at all the little details on those dorsal plates. Just beautifully sculpted. And honestly, X Plus makes the most accurate, well-represented figures of Godzilla and pretty much any other kaiju that they do. They do Ultraman, Gamera, all sorts of different things. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at some other stuff here on a separate shelf. So this shelf here is a lot of miscellaneous kaiju from different movies and films, like Ultraman, Pacific Rim, some more Godzilla, Gamera, all sorts of different stuff on this one here. So we'll get a nice sweep of the shelf here. As you can see, once again, there's some Ultraman, Godzilla, Pacific Rim, Gamera, all sorts of things. So on the far right here, we have Gold Ross from Ultraman, which is one of my favorite kaiju from Ultraman. We have Otachi from Pacific Rim. That's a NECA figure, one of my favorite NECA figures probably ever produced. Here we have a Godzilla from the anime trilogy from Netflix, and he's honestly probably one of the coolest Godzilla figures that's not X Plus, and that's a Banpresto also from Japan, which is one of those prize lottery ones. This is an Oranga from Ultraman, which I got from a buddy at a convention for free because, well, he was just being nice. And then here we have a very large Banpresto, Godzilla 1954, which is the original film. And oh boy, this is probably one of the coolest ones I have in terms of the original film. And it's got a strange brown color there, which is sort of like a sepia tone instead of a black and white. And then back here, we have a Jet Jaguar that's actually a bank, um, but it holds up pretty well. It's X Plus size. Then we have a giant Batra larva figure from X Plus, and it's actually one of their largest figures I own, probably in terms of shelf space. If you can go ahead and take a look at all the detail it has there. Then in the back, we have Otachi from Pacific Rim flying. And up front here, we have another Gamera from X Plus. Actually, I think that's the first one I've shown you guys. And that's from Gamera 3 from the 90s trilogy. And he's got his glowing energy arm there after he loses his arm in the film. Sorry for spoiling that for anyone, but, you know, it's from the 90s. And now we move on to the bottom shelf here. And we're going to go ahead and start on the left-hand side this time. And on the bottom shelf here, once again, it's miscellaneous stuff. We have a 1954 Bandai figure with his little card there beside him. And the cards actually increase their value, believe it or not. Kind of like keeping a figure in the box. Then we have a X Plus Godzilla 1962, which was my favorite design for most of my life ever since childhood. It's from the original King Kong vs. Godzilla film. And we have another 1962 back there that's a Polar Lights model kit, but it doesn't look too good, and I made that when I was a lot younger. But the X Plus is probably one of my favorites in terms of detail and design there. And then here we have a very important piece to me in my collection. This was the first model kit I ever put together and painted myself. And it is of Gigan from the 1972 film. And I put this together maybe in 2012, 2013. It's been a while now, but it was my first time using an airbrush, first time like ever putting together a model kit of any kind. But in my opinion, it's honestly pretty well put together, pretty well painted, even for it being my first crack at painting with an airbrush. And I'm going to go ahead and take it out here and show you some of the detail, especially on those fins on the back. I really tried to make them look very natural and had sort of a gradient effect going on with the spines going up into those silver spikes on the back. You can see I really tried my best to make the color have sort of a gradient effect there, look very natural and shaded. And I remember struggling to try to get it, but honestly with an airbrush, it was a lot easier than I would have thought, especially for the first time doing it. And I also tried to, you know, sort of do that gradient shifting of tone on the spikes coming out of the arms there, sort of like they're emerging out of the skin. At least that's what I was going for. So we'll go ahead and put him back and move on to this Gigan from the 2004 film, Final Wars. And this one is a Bandai America figure. And if you take a look at their little mandibles there on their face, the ones on this figure, when I bought this one, they were actually missing. And I didn't notice it for a while until I brought it home. And this was way back in the day. And I actually went ahead and sculpted my own mandibles out of Aves epoxy putty and painted them silver. And I really tried my best to make them look as accurate as possible. And honestly, if you're not looking at it up close, I think it looks pretty good. And honestly, they're a lot thicker in that movie than they are for the original, like 72, 73 Gigan. It's really not too bad, I guess. And then this here is a little exclusive from the Japanese release of the Godzilla PS3, PS4 game that came out in 2014, 2015, around the time the American movie came out. And I've never opened it. It's just this little orange Godzilla, but I just thought it was cool to keep in there. And then over here, we're going to take a look at another model kit I put together. This is a West Kenji model kit of Godzilla 2001. I made this right after that Gigan I just showed you guys. This one here is also X Plus scale, which to me, I honestly prefer the look of this one over the X Plus figure, which is why I never ordered it. But to me, it really looks pretty good in terms of accuracy to the film. Might not be quite as snarling or evil as he looks in the movie. thought about editing this out, but my cat actually interrupted this video and climbed into my display cabinet. And that's honestly the first time he's ever done that. But we're going to go ahead and take a look at the dorsal plates here. And once again, I use an airbrush to get the painting done on those, which I think they turned out pretty good. But on the other side, I didn't do it quite as good as I thought I did at the time. As you can see, the one on the middle there didn't turn out so great. We're going to go ahead and skip ahead here past that. But yeah, once again, the one in the middle didn't turn out the best, but the rest all look pretty good to me in terms of accuracy to the film. I honestly never noticed how bad that looked till now, but I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world. So I'm going to go ahead and put him back there. But yeah, all the little segments on his tail, his dorsal plates, his toes, everything was individually painted and shaded, just like I did with the Gigan, but maybe not as good, actually. Honestly, not too much you can do with just charcoal gray and white. Then this here is a really large X Plus figure. This is a Hedorah or Smog Monster from Godzilla vs. the Smog Monster. And it's one of the larger of their 30 centimeters, but it has incredible detail, really nice paintwork, and I love the look of the eyes on this one. They're really piercing, really red, and they just pop a lot more than other figures of him. Now over here, you might be wondering, why is Megatron part of this Godzilla collection? Well, this Megatron figure is a third-party, upscaled version of the Masterpiece Megatron. And I honestly love this figure so much, I wanted to keep him in really nice condition. And this is the only large glass case I have that he could fit in. So I decided to put him in here. Honestly, I'm not going to talk too much about him, but I do think he has a really, really nice design and a really nice likeness to the movie. And honestly, I think it looks a lot better than the actual Masterpiece. I'm just going to try to reposition his head here for a second. Not to take too much time away from the rest of the Godzilla stuff. But I really do love this figure, and I really do love Transformers. And that's honestly going to segue us off into the next section here as we go to a very interesting shelf. This shelf here is of a very interesting part of my collection. Everything on this shelf is actually a gift from someone important to me or a YouTuber. But this here is the new Godzilla SH Monster Arts from the 2021 Godzilla vs. Kong film. And this is here because I just got it. I wanted to keep it nice. And it's actually a placeholder for something I'm getting from a YouTuber who I wouldn't say is like too close to me, but we're good online friends. And I want it to turn out really, really nice. And he's a pretty cool dude. I'm not going to tell you guys who it is. We're just going to wait and see whenever it gets here. But this is also a placeholder, and it's a Vastatosaurus Rex from the 2005 King Kong movie. It's made by a company called W Dragon. Once again, a placeholder for what's going to go here, which I'm really excited for what's going to be here. Hopefully it gets here soon so I can show everybody. And it'll probably, you know, it's a couple of figures. I'll let you know that. It's a couple of figures. And then you might be asking, what the heck is that drawing in the back there? Well, that drawing is a commission from one of my favorite YouTubers of all time, Jobby the Hong. And he is a world-class figure reviewer. Honestly, to me, he's not even a figure reviewer. He's more like a like a figure like experiencer. I don't know how to even word that. He gives you a figure experience. He doesn't just give you a review. It's like an art film type thing. I don't really know how to describe it. It's definitely unique. But anyway, I asked him to make me a drawing of Godzilla from the new Singular Point series, and this is what I got in return, which I wouldn't expect anything less from Jobby. He really loves his art style. I love his art style, and I think it looks really nice there, and I might put the Singular Point Godzilla figure there in front of it just to show what it's supposed to be, but I'm going to keep that there probably forever. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing here. And this figure is very important to me. No, it's not from a YouTuber, but it is from my aunt. and she passed away in 2008. And I got this from her the Thanksgiving before she passed away. She went to New York City on vacation and got this from the Toys R Us there in the city. And I've never actually been able to go there, but she knew I love Godzilla and she knew I love Gigan, so she went ahead and got that for me. And some people might not like this figure because it's not the most accurate, but that's not what's important. What's important to me is that I love it for what it is, for the design and the sentimental value of getting it from her. It was the last gift I ever got from her, so it really means a lot to me. And then back here, we have a Gigan that is the 1973 Gigan, which is super rare to get any figure representation of that version of Gigan. And this is made by a company called Gigabrain, which is a company out of Japan. And I got this from a YouTuber named Rich Iso, or Mr. Fresh Vinyl himself. And he is probably one of the funniest reviewers on YouTube in terms of Godzilla content. He's very unique, and he's probably the top Godzilla reviewer on YouTube, and he's very well known in the community. Just to show you guys here, here is Jet Jaguar, that vinyl bank. They're about the same size, and they're both from the same film. So I was really glad to finally get this in my collection. I was actually hunting for this figure for years, and lucked out he was able to sell me his, and he's the reason I was actually looking for it to begin with. So this is the far left side of the shelf. I'm actually going to save this for its own special video, where I'm going to go really in depth on what this means to me here. It has a lot of sentimental value that I really can't explain in a short amount of time. But just know that these are from probably my favorite YouTuber of all time and a pretty good friend of mine. That's all I'm going to say for now. I won't go into too much more detail. So we're going to go ahead and move over to the non-glass case portion of my collection. Starting on the bottom shelf, we have a lot of American Godzilla figures. That's from the 1998 Matthew Broderick TriStar film. Those are some 1990 Trendmasters figures. And there's a random Gamera X Plus figure back there. Believe it or not, that figure actually wouldn't fit in the shelf, the glass shelf, which seems weird, but its tail actually sticks out too far to get it in there at a good angle. And then over here we have some of the newer figures. This is a Bandai America Godzilla 2014, Jakks Pacific 2019, and the new Playmates 2021 King Kong versus Godzilla figure. Or sorry, Godzilla versus Kong. I'm used to the original movie title. And he actually roars if you go ahead and press a button on the side there. Which, you know, it looks okay. It's not like the worst thing ever. But, you know, for like 20 bucks, whatever, you know, that's pretty good. Even if it's a children's toy, I don't mind it too much. So moving up here, we have the NECA shelf, and I do have another Trendmasters figure on here. Since this is all really American stuff, you know, I squeeze it in with the NECA. And it's one of the hardest to find figures of the 1998 movie version of Godzilla. And I know a lot of people really hate this film, but to me, I actually really enjoy this movie. And I know that might irritate a lot of fans or a lot of people that don't like this film. But to me, it actually is one of the few films that really holds up the original message of Godzilla about, you know, humankind messing with nature, atomic testing, that sort of thing. But enough of that. We're going to move on here to the NECA figures. And this here is the 1954. This is the 1994. Here is the 2001. And there's a 2002 in the background there, which I've yet to take out of the box. I just really like the way it looks. So I've just decided to keep it in there. And same with the 89 that I passed by earlier. I didn't really talk about too much. And the 2001 GMK one here, I actually really like the look of it. And I know a lot of people think the SH Monster Arts looks better, but I honestly like this one. And even though the color scheme isn't accurate with that green on the face, it kind of gives it like a crocodilian alligator kind of look, which I really think is cool. Then here we have the NECA 2014, which was one of the first figures NECA produced. and it looks pretty good in terms of detail. A lot of paint you don't normally see in that movie because of how dark that film is in terms of lighting. And then here we have a 2016 Godzilla from the Shin Godzilla movie. And a lot of people don't really like the way this one looks either. But believe it or not, this actually is one of my favorite figures in my entire collection in terms of how it looks. It's really grotesque, but it looks really cool. And then we have his little companion here, which is another Shin Godzilla from the same movie. And his mouth is just open. That's really the only difference, aside from the pink and purple color scheme on his back, dorsal plates, and mouth. And then we have a brand new Jet Jaguar from Playmates back there. I don't have a good place for him yet, so I'm just sticking him in the back. Then we move on to my favorite NECA figure in terms of Godzilla related products, or actually any figure. And this is the 2014 NECA figure that they put out that was over a foot tall, or about a foot tall. And design wise, it looks so intimidating. The eyes are really piercing. The color scheme is really good. There's a lot of nice shading, texturing going on all the scales. Really brings out all the detail on the figure. And he actually roars, which I'm demonstrating now. So this is the final part of the video here. And if you made it this far, thank you and congratulations. And this is the largest figures in my collection, except for one figure that I'm going to make a separate video for, aside from this one. And this here is the Jakks Pacific 2014 Godzilla that is just super huge. And down below him here is the Bandai 1984 Mothra. That's not the year the movie came out. That's the year this figure came out. So this figure is probably one of the oldest figures in my entire collection, if not the oldest, aside from my Imperial Godzillas. But they are in storage right now, unfortunately, which I should probably bring those out for a separate video. I honestly have more Godzilla than I'm showing you guys in this video, but we'll save that for another day once I get everything out of storage and up on a new shelf. So this over here is an unknown brand Godzilla figure that I got from a friend in Japan, and he doesn't even know what brand this is. It could be a bootleg, could be like a third-party knockoff or something, but it looks really nice. It really has that 90s look to him, and I think it does the job even if it's pretty small. And then here, I know I have the tail removed, but it won't fit on the shelf with the tail on, is also from 1984, is the 1964 Godzilla, and that's also what that Mothra larva was from that I just showed a moment ago. And this Godzilla here is also one of the oldest figures in my entire collection, and despite its age, it has incredibly good sculpt work, incredibly good paint detail, individually sculpted teeth, a real nice tongue, pretty clean eyes. You know, it's a very simple paint scheme, but it was in the movie, and it has very nice silver detailing, which I think holds up even now. And in the back here, we have a Ghidorah from the 2001 film, and I know that's just a regular Bandai, but he honestly wouldn't fit in the glass case. He doesn't look too big. He looks like he should fit, but his wingspan and the length of his necks and his tails make him impossible to get in there no matter what angle I put him at. He's just too big. And I know I got a random Leonardo back there, but that's the only thing I could really think to set him on top of, so he wasn't hidden. So now we finally move on to my actual favorite piece in my entire collection. My favorite X Plus figure I own. This is Godzilla 1995. This is from Godzilla vs. Destroya, and this figure or statue is huge. He is made out of vinyl, but a very sturdy vinyl. Is super intricately detailed. Look at all those individually sculpted ridges all over his body. Look at those piercing red eyes. They actually have some depth to them and some layering. And oh my god, look at that mouth. Look at the grit and nastiness on those teeth. That horribly but beautifully sculpted tongue, along with all the little texture and detail. It looks wet, it looks real, it's incredible. And then on the chest here, we actually have a translucent vinyl that's made for like to let light pass through. So it looks like it's glowing. And I used to have it sitting in the sun, not outside, but on a table in the house. And I had the sun passing through the window, shining through it, and it looked so nice and had such a cool effect. But I didn't want it to ruin it over time because, exposing things to the sun isn't really for the best. And he actually has translucent dorsal spines as well that really have that nice orange glow to them. And his tail goes all the way back there. It's a very massive tail. And not all the dorsal spines are translucent, but all the ones on the back are mostly. And he is just an absolute behemoth of a figure. Look at that stance, look at those toes, those little fingernails, all the detail. And we're going to do a closing shot here on his mouth and just that menacing, terrifying stare he has. So that wraps up everything in the video for you guys. I wanted to thank you all for giving this a watch, and whoever stayed through the whole thing, I really appreciate it. Once again, this is my first ever video in relation to action figures or collecting, and I really hope to do more videos, reviews, all sorts of things. I'm actually waiting on a new computer so I can actually produce higher quality videos. This honestly, like I said before, was made on the spot because it was part of a contest, and the deadline was today. So I'm just trying to get this out as fast as possible. But if you guys like this video, I want you to go ahead and give me a like and subscribe, and hopefully it will inspire me to keep creating more content, and hopefully I can put out those special videos I was talking about for you guys. I have 3 in mind for the future, hopefully the near future, once I get that new computer, and everything should turn out pretty good. And once again, I wanted to thank you all for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful day. My name's Thirsty for Chicken, and thank you for stopping by.